Okay, got everything ready. Got to record another anime review.
What anime are you reviewing?
Oh, I'm reviewing, let me check. I'm reviewing Gleipnir? Gleipnir?
Are you sure that that's how you pronounce that?
No, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I should probably look it up. Here, let me look it up real quick. How to pronounce Gleipnir. Let's go to dictionary.com. Let's see.
Gleipnir. Gleipnir.
What the fuck?
Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Jordan and welcome to JC's Anime Reviews. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about Gleipnir. And yes, that's actually how you pronounce it. I had to look up on how to pronounce this anime because it's not pronounced the way it's spelled. It's spelled like, what is it, Glein, something like that, and it looks like it says Gleipnir, something like that, but you pronounce it Gleipnir, so that's what I'm calling it in this video. But yeah, this one ended right before I left. I think it was the day before I left, so I managed to watch it before I went out of town, and I didn't get a chance to review it when it ended, so here we are. We're gonna just go ahead, start talking about it, give you guys my thoughts on it, and yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and start talking about the plot. Gleipnir follows Shuichi Kagaya, who is a seemingly average high school student, but has a strange ability. He can transform into a furry dog with an oversized revolver and a zipper down his back. One night, he finds one of his classmates inside a burning building and he transforms to save the girl's life, sharing his secret with her. But she's searching for the sister who killed her family, and she doesn't care how degrading it gets. She will use Shuichi to accomplish her mission. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, like, he turns into a dog with an oversized zipper down his back and a big revolver, and you're probably thinking that that sounds really silly because his power essentially just lets him turn into a mascot character. But this anime is actually kind of dark. That's kind of what they were going for. I think the whole tone of this anime is kind of like a darker, more mature anime. I think it's kind of what they were going for. So while it does seem kind of silly, it's a little bit darker and is not as silly as it sounds. Yes, he does have a strange ability, but I feel that that's what makes this story so unique. You have a lot of powers that are really unique, and yes, there are more than one power. They end up finding out that other people have powers too, and some of the powers are actually pretty interesting. They're all not like some silly thing. I think his is the only one that sounds really silly. The other ones are actually kind of cool. But yeah, it's weird. Like, some of the powers I don't think I've really seen in other anime, so that's what I feel like makes it really unique. It's the same thing with like My Hero Academia. I feel like that what makes it really interesting at times is the multiple powers that people have, and some of them are really cool and some of them I've never heard of before, and it's kind of the same thing with this. Now, I won't spoil how these people get their powers, but I thought that the way they went about how people get these powers was really interesting and I really liked it. Also, I feel that the abilities are not the only good thing about this show. I think the characters are really good, and my favorite character doesn't even have a power, so it's not like the powers are all what that this show is about. The characters are pretty good as well. Claire Aoki, who is the girl that Shuichi, the main character, saves in the beginning, I think is really interesting, and she's probably my favorite character. She's introduced as being kinda crazy, but as you learn more about her, you start to care about her more. Also, they don't go super overboard with like the whole crazy thing like how they do in other animes where some girls will just be totally crazy. In this, she's kind of crazy, but it's not like horrible. It's not like insane crazy. She's a very good balance between being crazy and not crazy. So she's not like insane and like a psychopath, but she's not totally sane either. Most of the things that she does throughout the show, I feel, are justified. There's some parts where she'll make a decision or do something that makes certain characters feel uncomfortable or kind of question her sanity. For example, there's a part later on in the anime that I won't spoil, but she ends up making a decision to do something, and a lot of the other characters weren't comfortable with it or didn't like the decision that she made. But if she didn't make that decision or do that thing, a lot of the characters would have been kind of fucked. And I feel like if I was her, I probably would have done the same thing because, like, there wasn't really any other choice and it kind of made sense. And while other people are, like, questioning her sanity, like, that doesn't seem like the right choice to make, I'm like, I probably would have done the same thing. She should have done that. Like, that makes sense. And I like that they did that. She's, like, a perfect balance between crazy and not crazy, and I really like it, and she's probably my favorite character in the whole show. As for Shuichi, I kind of felt like he was boring, but the way they go about exploring his past or his backstory, they do it in a way where it does explain some stuff about his past, but like you're not given enough information, and some of the stuff you're like, I want to know what happens, and you need to know more, or you want to know more about it. So they went about it in a way that he was kind of boring, but he has, like, you want to know more about him, and his power I thought was really interesting. So he is kind of boring in the beginning, but I think he gets a little bit more interesting later on. So yeah, I thought Shuichi was fine. He's not my favorite character, but I thought that he wasn't bad either, and he's nowhere near as boring as Bam from Tower of God was, which in that review I said that he was so boring, and that was one of my biggest complaints. But yeah, if you want to check that review out, I'll put links in the description to that. One more thing I really like about this anime is the fight scenes, and they feel very real. Now, one fight scene that I'm going to give an example for, there is minor spoilers. I have to spoil one thing to tell you that something that I like about it, and there's something later on that I want to talk about that has to do with this. So minor spoilers for episode 2, but again, it happens so early on that it's not really that big of a spoiler, and even on one of the posters it kind of shows it, so I don't really think it's that big of a spoiler. If you don't want to know anything about it, then don't watch this part. Basically, they end up finding out that the zipper on his back actually works, so he can unzip the back of him, and he's hollow like a mascot costume. And what ends up happening is Claire, it sounds weird, but Claire goes inside of him to kind of control him because he sucks at fighting, but she's better at fighting than him, so she kind of goes inside of him to control him. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really interesting, and yeah, I really liked it. And in the fight scene when they first do it, they end up fighting this girl who, it's the first girl that they meet who has powers, so they end up fighting her, and in the fight scene all the hits just feel really real. Like, you can, like, feel the weight behind each punch, and the way it sounds, it just makes it feel so real. And I really love that about this anime. That's probably my favorite thing about it. And this one fight scene, at the time that I had seen the clip of it, it was like all over Twitter and Instagram because people were saying how awesome it looked. That was how I first heard of this anime. This one fight scene I saw everywhere, and yeah, it was a really good fight scene, and I think the fight scenes throughout it are pretty good. I think there aren't like a whole lot of fight scenes, like thinking about it, but they're still pretty good. That when they do happen, I thought that they were good, and I think the final fight scene is pretty cool. I'm not going to spoil that at all because it's in the last episode, but I thought that one was pretty cool as well. And as for negatives, I would probably say that it gets boring sometimes, and like the side characters, I didn't really care about them because they don't really get any character development at all. But it also feels like not that much happens. It's kind of feels like this season was just kind of set up, which you need that in like any series. You need to introduce your characters and introduce the world that you're trying to build, but it made this season feel really kind of like nothing super eventful happened. There were important things that happened, but like it wasn't like a whole lot happened. So I mean, they kind of needed that for the first season, so I'm hoping that the next season will be better. I mean, many anime need that. They need to kind of get you invested in the characters and interested in the world before they do any other stuff. So I feel like that was mostly the purpose of this season. That's the purpose of most first seasons, but it kind of made it just feel kind of boring. It just kind of felt like nothing was really happening for a while. And that's the only really like real complaint that I have about it, is it just seemed kind of boring at times. But overall, I mean, I still enjoyed it. There's one more thing that I do want to just address or mention about this anime, is that I was on IMDb and I also went on My Anime List to do some research about the anime and look for trailers, stuff like that. And I saw a couple reviews on there, and it looked like a lot of people were, not a lot, it was like a few reviews, and people were upset about it being like over sexual And I just kind of wanted to mention it because if that is something you're concerned about with watching it, and if maybe you saw the same review or saw something like that, and that's a concern of yours, I figured I'd just mention it real quick. So yeah, it is definitely sexual. I feel like towards the beginning, I feel like they kind of did it a little bit too much, like more than they really needed to. Also, Claire is pretty much half naked throughout the anime, but there's a reason for it. It's not like she just didn't want to wear that many clothes. Basically, the reason for it, and this makes sense, is that when she goes inside of his mascot costume, this is gonna sound really weird, it's like really sticky and gross or whatever, so she wears like a bathing suit so it doesn't ruin her clothes. And that kind of makes sense, you know, like it's not like she just did that throughout the whole show and they did it for no reason. There's kind of a reason behind it, but it's not that bad, especially when compared to an actual ecchi like Monster Musume, for example. It's nowhere near as bad as that, even though on my anime list it has the ecchi tag on it. It is a little bit like that, and if you don't like that in your anime, then you probably wouldn't like this one, or it might make you feel uncomfortable. If it doesn't really bother you, then I'd say just go ahead and watch it. Yeah, just wanted to mention it super fast. It's not really a big deal in my opinion, but if that is something that you don't like, then yeah, just wanted to mention it real quick. So overall, I feel like this is a pretty solid first season, and I'd recommend checking it out if you haven't already, and if it seems interesting at all. But if it didn't seem interesting, if you don't really are into that stuff, then I wouldn't recommend it. It's definitely more for like, I feel like a mature audience. I mean, that's kind of what I think that's what they're going for. So yeah, you may or may not like this anime. Kind of depends, but I'm going to be giving Gleipnir a B. Overall, I really enjoyed it, but let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of this first season of Gleipnir, and if you haven't seen it, let me know if you're interested in checking it out, or if it doesn't sound very good to you. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. I always like reading your guys' thoughts in the comments. I'm sure that you've noticed the background's a little bit different. I'm trying to make it as not plain as possible. I just put my One Piece shirt and some Berserk manga behind me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and make sure to like, subscribe, share the video around. All of it helps support my channel, or it helps it grow, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.